Hey everybody, Westier Steve. Between now and the election, I'm going to be doing a series of one-on-one interviews with the various candidates for supervisor. We're going to be starting with Mark Schmidt, who has the Democratic nomination for the at-large position. And tomorrow I'm going to release an interview or conversation with Vince McCurry, who is the Republican candidate for the same at-large position. I hope you guys find these as valuable tools to help you shape your decision making. So without further ado, let's get started. Hello, everybody. My name is Steve Brennan, and I'll be hosting today's interview. And I'm joined today by Mark Schmidt. He is the Democratic candidate for the at-large seat on the Westier Township Board of Supervisors. But before we get started, I want to at least mention that I haven't had any prior conversations with Mark or with any of our candidates prior to us sitting down and talking. And each discussion is going to be kept to 25 to 30 minutes, and the full recording will be shared publicly in its entirety without edits. And with that, Mark, let's begin by giving you the opportunity to introduce yourself. Tell the world a little bit about who you are.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Mark Schmidt. I've lived in Westier Township for 47 years, raised two kids here. I wasn't born here, but I've lived here since, basically 1978. Um, I have, I am a land surveyor by trade, still working, and I own the company. I have roughly 20 employees. Um, been running it, took it over from my father in 1991. He started the company in 1960. In 91, I also joined the Westier Township Planning Commission. The year after I joined, I was appointed chairman, and I've held that office until I retired from the Planning Commission in the end of 2023. And over that period of time, I think the Planning Commission has done a lot of things that benefit and continue to benefit the township. And, I think that the experience that I gained while being on the Planning Commission has been valuable and will be valuable to me in this office, should I be elected. I
Why do
can
you think
also,
so? Why do you think
pardon?
that? I was just curious. So tell me a little bit about why you think that your work on the Planning Commission will assist you as a supervisor.
Okay. We worked on a lot of different things through our tenure there. We worked on, I think, two iterations of the zoning ordinance. We worked on one of the comprehensive plans. As you know, the comprehensive plan is a guideline of where the township is planning to go for a period of time, usually like 10 years. We also worked on a traffic impact fee committee where this was in 2012. We established traffic impact fee that developers pay per house or per traffic during peak hour trips. We had to start it artificially low just to get it enacted. A lot of the supervisors at that time were very reticent to impose something like that on development, but quite frankly, all of our neighbors around us have it.
Hmm.
And over the years, the last couple of years, we've been able to raise it. We're still not up where we should be. I think we're in the $800 or $900 a trip. Our neighbors are in the $1,500 to $1,700 per trip. So this is all money that I think we can use.
Yeah.
We're missing out on some, or we can use to mitigate the impact of all this development that we're seeing now.
And there has been a lot of development
Yes.
around the township. So you've been here 47 years. You've probably seen the township change a little bit over that time. How is it different now than it was back when we all were a little younger?
Well, I think, back in the day, uh, West Deer had a reputation of kind of being a good old boy network back in the day. And that was kind of like when I first moved here, I saw some of the evidence of that. And I think over time, especially being on the planning commission, I got to meet and work with a whole range of different boards, Republicans, Democrats. Over the years, there were, mostly all good people. But they all had different approaches to everything. And, that was all good experience to see what works, what doesn't work, uh, things like that.
Do you do you think there's like still a gap to be bridged between parties, or do you think that at this level of government that's
I would
not what
hope,
not what it is elsewhere?
I would hope at this level, at any level really, but most particularly at this level, that and you vote for the person and not necessarily the
Yeah.
party. And that's kind of the way I've always been my entire life. I've never voted a straight ticket in my entire life. So I would hope that the people of West Deer follow that guideline.
So, traffic impact fees. You talked about that. So, prior to what was it? What was 2012? Is that what you said?
2012, yeah.
We didn't have any traffic impact fees at
No,
all.
no, we didn't, and we're more or less forced to pay on our own for any mitigation or any traffic improvements that development did bring at the time. Of course, back then there wasn't as much development as there is now. But we were subject to, if a development came in with 500 homes and it caused a need for a traffic light or, turning lanes or anything like that, we would have been forced to pay for it. With the um, impact fee, uh, well, I can tell you, let me go back 1 second here. Even though we didn't have an impact fee at the time, on the planning commission, we kind of made call it a pseudo impact fee. For instance, the developments up on McIntyre Road, I requested and the developer agreed to pay $500 a unit for every unit that was built up there. Ideally, that was to be used to put a traffic light at the bottom of McIntyre and 910. Ended up that Richland went ahead and put that light in, so they used that money to make the improvements on McIntyre Road. Uh,
And
Secondly,
that would have been back in 2000, something like that.
yeah,
2001.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Secondly, we also did that with Oakwood Heights, Ashley Road, and the extension all the way through to West Stars Road. We imposed a fee. We asked the developer to pay a fee of $500 per unit there, based on the engineer's question or number that he gave us that would take to extend that road. He gave us a number. We took the units, divided it, worked out to about $500 a unit. So that's what we asked the developer to contribute towards that extension of the road. And today that road has been extended at no cost to the township.
Right. Do you think there's other areas similar to a traffic impact fee where we're not taking advantage of all the opportunities that we can to generate revenue for the township?
Yeah, I think one of the bigger things is to go back to the gas wells that were recently passed. When I was there, I had added conditions to the approval that would have, required the developer to install several traffic lights down on 910, some turning lanes, some improvements to pedestrian improvements to the intersection of Oak Road and Bedford Road. None of those things were followed through on by the Board of Supervisors at that time, and we missed out. A lot of those surrounding townships around us, took advantage and were able to leverage things like that. Now, I'm not saying we would have got everything that was on my list, but I think it was a strong negotiating point to start from. And we always can negotiate down, but you can't negotiate up. Um, but we didn't take advantage of anything. So basically, that's what we got. Nothing.
How important is that relationship between the supervisors and the planning commission?
I think it's very important. Um, Supervisors have a lot on their plate, with taxes and budgets and police and EMS and fire and all that. The planning commission's job is to take a look at the developments that come in and evaluate them and basically do the hardcore work to make sure that they meet the ordinance. And if there's anything, uh, that can be done, such as I mentioned in regards to the impact fee or anything like that, to take care of the nuts and bolts. And then basically they make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. And then it's up to the board to make that decision as to whether they accept those recommendations or not. So I think it's a very important thing. And not only the planning commission, but also the zoning hearing board plays a very, very important
Sure.
part.
Yeah, and I think it's important. I don't think everybody realizes that those are recommendations that you're making, and then ultimately the supervisors have to gather all the information and make the ultimate decision.
Yeah, yeah. I know one thing that I was a little disappointed to see was when the new municipal building came up. When we got it at the planning commission, it was basically done. We made several recommendations, but it was too late in the game to make those kind of changes. And if we'd have been there earlier, we could have made those. I think we were just kind of kicked in at a last minute thing, say, oh yeah, we need to get a planning commission review on this.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be frustrating. I see them doing a lot of workshops now to try to involve the citizens in helping formulate those decisions and what's best for the township.
Mhm. We actually did have workshops years ago, and then things kind of got slow. And we had a lot of workshops that were canceled because we didn't have an agenda for them. So I'm glad to see that they started them again.
Yeah, I've seen some of the work that they've done, and I think I think that's great. It's a great way to kind of foster relationships and include the public in with what's going on. What do you
Absolutely.
what do you think the biggest challenges are in West Deer right now? Like when you look at what's going on, like where do we think we need to really put our time in?
Well, I think they've got to start on it with the openness, starting to stream the meetings. I think we need to expand on that. I think the planning commission meetings should be streamed. I think the zoning hearing board meetings should be streamed. But I also think there should be interaction. There's no reason why somebody, in today's world should have to come to the township building to attend a meeting when they have a busy schedule at home, and maybe they can, have enough time to sit in front of a computer like we are tonight and
Hmm.
pose with a question or a comment, to interact with the supervisors. I see that in other townships. One of the things, as my engineering company, uh, I make a lot of presentations throughout townships, before planning commissions, before councils, before supervisors, before commissioners, all over Western Pennsylvania. So I've seen other municipalities and how they handle streaming, how they don't handle streaming. I think it's probably a 50-50 thing now with maybe half the places doing streaming, and I'm glad to see that we're following through on that, but I think we still have a ways to go.
Yeah, and it's still new. They're I think that at the point of you and I talking, they've only streamed one meeting so far, and I'm sure that they're moving forward on it or growing on it. At least I hope so.
Yes.
So, as far as you're talking about some transparency items. As far as like communication back and forth with the public. So we talked a little bit about workshops and how that's kind of had a positive impact. Are we doing everything that we can to facilitate or to foster those positive relationships with the public and making them involved in the process of government?
Well, I think there are other things that can be done. We do have a newsletter. It comes out sporadically, and it's pretty uh, long time between issues that come out. My office is in Etna. They send out one a month. It's not anything fancy. It's not printed on fancy paper like ours is, but basically it's letter size paper. There might be 7, 8, 10 sheets folded in half and mailed to every resident in Etna. And it includes a lot of information. It includes what's going on with the planning commission, what's going on with the board of supervisors, what's going on with the garden club, all the things that are going on. If it's coming up on the 4th of July, what the schedule is for the fireworks and community days and et cetera, et cetera. And I think that, we could uh, do better in sending out a newsletter to that effect. I think it doesn't have to be printed on fancy paper. We can send out something at a modest price. We can offer it online initially, and for those people that can't get it online, they can ask to have it mailed to them. And that way we can keep costs as low as possible and still get the word out on a regular basis.
And I mean, we have kind of a monthly newsletter that, like it's usually a 1 or 2 pager that I see whenever I go up to the township building. It doesn't seem to, it's not like the big newsletter that came out in July,
Right.
that has, all kinds of things in it. But yeah, no, that's interesting. So if this would be, am I correct? This would be your first elected position in West Deer?
That is correct. Yeah, when I retired, I was thinking I was done with government service. I did have several people approach me and ask me to run. So that's why I'm here today.
One of the things that I've discussed, not in this formal setting, but just kind of offhand or after township meetings or whatnot, is that as a commission, or excuse me, as a supervisor, you often have to make unpopular decisions. At any given time, probably half of the public doesn't agree with some of the decisions you're making. How are you going to deal with that? That's going to be maybe a little different situation than you've been in before.
Yeah, I've been through the same thing at the company that I own. Sometimes you have to make unpopular decisions, but basically you have to stick to your guns. I think the best you can do is make your explanation as clear and concise as possible so they understand, hopefully, the reasons that this decision needs to be made in the way that you're going to make it, and have the guts to follow through with it.
Do you going back just briefly to the development that's going on in the township? I'm seeing a lot of very large residential plans being proposed in the township. We have, I think, what the Wilds plan out on Star Road. We have, I guess Rose Ridge, is out there, and that's already being developed. We have, a number of things. The golf course off of Monier. Are those okay? I mean, is that the direction? I mean, is it okay to say that it's nice having more people in the township, or is that, or are we doing too much too fast, in your opinion?
Well, I think I'm not sure that what we're seeing right now is a continuing thing. I think maybe we're just in a period of time when several of these larger projects have all converged at one time. I don't see a continuance of those. There has been some concern with regards to the PRD ordinance that was voiced at the last supervisors meeting. And I think people need to understand what a PRD ordinance is. A PRD ordinance allows a developer to basically build the same number or maybe a few more than what regular zoning would allow. But at the cost of that, they have to donate or make a certain percentage, and it's a large percentage, like 25, 30% of their land has to be clean open space, either woods or active recreation in the way of parks, baseball fields, things like that. They don't see it now, but when you go to Rose Ridge, almost the entire there's a large area that's going to be left untouched. Their 255 homes that they're putting up there are basically um, all going to happen on the upper part of that development. There's going to be a large area of open space in between the homes and in between the groups of homes, not necessarily in between homes. As you see, they're rather close together.
Mm.
But that's the benefit of the ordinance. It allows them to build close together, but makes them dedicate more of the steeper slopes in the wood areas and leave that natural in its natural state. Now, one thing I can also say, if you take a look at the developments, let's look at the economic impact of that. The school district lost a lot of money when they were forced to give back money for the Pittsburgh Mills when they got reassessed. And I ran some quick numbers here, but
Yes, sir.
uh, if at Rose Ridge with 255 units, once it's under full development, if the average unit sells for $500,000, and my understanding is I was told recently they're going for more than that, the school district itself would gain $3 million a year. That's a lot of money. And there's no impact to the schools because it's all senior citizens.
Sure.
So that's a huge bonus to the school district. Now, the township doesn't quite fare as well because their real estate taxes are low, but they're still getting, I think, just $370,000 a year in real estate taxes. Plus, they're also gaining almost $1 million in real estate transfer taxes from the sales of those units. So there is money coming into the township from those kind of developments, significant money that
Sure.
used to support the budget and keep our taxes low like they are.
Whenever around the time of the primaries, and there was a couple of meet the candidate events, and there was a lot of folks talking about the character of the township, and we don't want to lose the character of the township. Is kind of a sentiment I heard across a lot of the candidates. Do we risk losing that? And is that something we should be trying to protect?
I think we need to protect that. I told you over the years, I've worked through several zoning ordinances and several different comprehensive plans. At one time, this is probably back in the early 2000s, I had meetings scheduled as part of the comprehensive plan. We went on the road and had meetings at four different areas in the township. And what I heard time and time again from everybody up there was we want to maintain the rural character of the township. And I think that doing things like the PRD and making them have these larger open spaces, um, control, having our traffic impact fees to mitigate the effects of these developments when they come in. Um, I think we can't stop development. It's a right of the property owner. If he wants to sell his land to a developer, he can do that. And if the developer meets the ordinances, there's really nothing we can do. But we need to be able to manage it through these impact fees and conditional uses and things like that. Uh, the things that we have the power to control.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a balance, and it's a tough balance, right? You have it is West here's a beautiful place, and we always want to keep it beautiful, but we also uh we want it to grow with everything else around us
It
in
has
a
to be
sense
managed.
that yeah.
Has to be managed.
Um Regarding just kind of our roads and our parks, is there anything that you would do differently than what's being done now as far as infrastructure is concerned?
I think our public works crew is doing a fantastic job. Um, Even in the past Board of Supervisors, they've been doing a great job on maintaining the roads, paving the roads, far better than it's ever been in the past.
I've
I
heard
would,
people say that a lot, actually,
I
on both
would be,
sides of the aisle.
would be all in favor of continuing what they're doing in regards to that. On the park side, I do know that we have a great Parks and Rec Commission. They've been doing a fantastic job. They're also the benefit of this. They also have an impact fee that they collect from each unit that goes in the township. But I think the township does own some fairly significant chunks of land scattered throughout the township. If you look at Bedford Park is a great place, but it's all basically a recreation place.
Yeah.
We have a large tract of land right next to the municipal building. It's really too steep for that kind of development there, but I think there's a lot of opportunity there for recreation in the way of maybe some walking trails, some gazebos, some place where you can kind of just sit down and rest and take in nature. The other thing that I've been trying to gather some steam with is I would like to, kind of look at a comprehensive plan that maybe we can establish a trail network throughout the township. I think one of the things that we can look at first would be trying to get something along the railroad down in Russellton. Everybody's told me in the past that, you can't really do that on active tracks, but, I was up at a trail up in northern Pennsylvania, and it was right on the active tracks. They merely had a fence between the track and the trail, and it was a great thing. That track, they tell me, was far busier than this track is here. And
Yeah,
so
I
I
would imagine.
I think there's a possibility. And if we, work with our neighbors, Indiana Township, and that could be extended all the way to the Allegheny River and possibly tied into the trail that's coming up the Allegheny River. So I think there are a lot of opportunities to use the land that we already have. And I would do this, with, maybe some help of the Recreation Committee, but also hopefully with grants and other funds that we can obtain without, raising taxes or anything.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I've seen some conversation too about using that land that you were describing behind the municipal building, and maybe even purchasing or trying to purchase some land from the school district. And there's a proposal to put a dog shelter back there or to move the dog shelter back there.
Yeah. I feel that that's a huge mistake. I was at the last meeting and they seem to think that that area isn't all that secluded, but in fact it is. They claim that there's people at the football field there, but they're not there that often.
Yeah.
Okay, they're there a couple hours maybe in the evening, couple hours on maybe on a Saturday or something like that. But there's huge amounts of time that there's nobody back there, and it's going to be pitch black. And even if there's light back, there's no one around to check on anybody that goes back there. You have these
Yeah.
people, mostly women, that volunteer at this dog shelter, and they go there at night, early in the morning. They're not going to want to go back there when there's nothing back there. And I wouldn't blame them. I certainly
Yeah.
wouldn't want my daughter or my wife going back there in a situation like that. I think that there's an opportunity to, either improve it in its existing location or, move it to a close by location, maybe up on the plateau there behind the building,
Hmm.
where it could, serve the same purpose, but the security for the volunteers would be a lot better.
Well, we're bumping up against the clock. I want to give you kind of the last word. What do you want to tell the residents before we sign off here?
Well, I want to thank you, Steve, for putting this on. I think it's a great idea to give everybody, all the different opinions, and look forward to hearing from everybody when they talk. I would ask the people of West Deer to take into account my experience with on the planning commission as well as running a business, and I've seen what works, I've seen what doesn't work throughout my tenure, and I would enjoy or look forward to the opportunity to serve the people of West Deer.
Thank you. That's Mark Schmidt. Thank you for spending the time with us today, and best of luck to you.
All right, thank you, Steve.